We're here in my backyard garden. We've got a pond going, some chickens going, and no, this makes sense. Chickens are going. Oh, uh-oh. Someone's trying to fight. That's Rufio. Oh, hey. Chill, okay, chill. This is my weirdest hen, for sure. It's a weird energy to her, is what I would say. Who doesn't like a good cocktail? I certainly do. What if I told you you could grow everything you see in a very simple garden? I'm Kevin Espiritu from Epic Gardening, and welcome to Growing Epic Groceries. So, the raising the drink thing reminds me of that Leo DiCaprio meme where he's like, So cultivate that like button for extra aromatic herbs, and let's kick it off with the first plant. And talking about cocktail herbs, there's actually one you do not want to plant it with anything else in your garden, and that would be mint. Mint is way easier to start as a transplant from the nursery. I have some English mint and some spearmint here, and I have the perfect container but you really want a container with a bottom that is completely solid on all sides. You would not believe how quickly this stuff spreads. So we have our nice organic potting mix in the container. Let's open up this spearmint and I will show you exactly what I mean by mint needs to be in its own container. If you take a look at these big looking roots, this is called a rhizome. It's an underground stem chunk. And what happens with mint is it is so vigorous, it can actually create new mint from every single one of these little nodes right here. And it just will creep and crawl everywhere and sometimes even block off the growth of other plants. And you can actually be quite rough with mint as you transplant it in. So what I like to do is kind of break up these roots. So I just want to give this a chance to kind of breathe here and just match it. So I don't want to go too low, I don't want to go too high, just keep it right at that level there. Next up, our English mint, and I think the coolest thing, at least for me, about mint and a lot of herbs for cocktails is that there's just so many different varieties. There's about 15 different types of mint I've grown in my career as a gardener. Lemon mint, chocolate mint, orange mint. The options really are sort of endless. Smells wonderful, great for a mojito or even just like a sun tea. But we just planted it in a container with a bottom, so you can run into an overwatering issue. So what I like to do is I'll give it a nice healthy drink, and then I'll just stick my finger down in the soil, maybe an inch or two, and see if it is wet. So that's your way to check. Every 2, 3, 4 days, come out, give it a little check. So we're nice and watered in, put it in a place with good sun. That's what it wants and loves. Our mint is done, it's contained. I'm gonna take it on over to the herb bed and show you some of my other favorite cocktail herbs. Welcome to my herb bed. We have our mint here, but there's so many different other herbs that you can use for cocktails. Kicking it off with lavender. This is English lavender. There are a lot of different types. When you're planting out a bigger herb like this, see all these roots? They're just sort of hanging around the bottom, kind of stuck in the shape of the pot. You just want to break those up a little bit. It's always a little bit scary. I get scared every time I do this, honestly, because I think I'm going to kill the plant, but they will bounce back completely fine. It kind of gives the roots the ability to spread themselves out, clear out a nice space. It's one of those herbs that you kind of either like it or you don't. I'm a big fan of it, but if you're a lavender fan, there's just so many uses for it. It's very floral, very aromatic, and it is such a beautiful plant. Like cocktails aside, it just looks really good in the garden. So potting it in is really that simple. Just want to make sure you kind of give it a nice pat, get some of those air pockets out. Great for maybe a gin cocktail. This is one plant I really would recommend not starting from seed. Buy it at the nursery. It is a nightmare to start from seed. So our lavender is in, but I want to show you the next herb, which actually smells like a fruit, and that would be pineapple sage. I mentioned with mint that there's so many different varieties of these herbs. It is extremely reminiscent of a pineapple. One of the few where it really lives up to the name pineapple sage. In here, same sort of thing. Would probably go ahead and start this one as a transplant, not as a seed. This is one that will get nice and bushy. In fact, this could get maybe about this big or so. The beauty of an herb garden or a cocktail herb garden is that you really can pack them in and let them kind of run into one another. They won't choke each other out. They'll be perfectly fine, unlike the mint. But for me, pineapple sage is kind of like a nice little pop. You could put it into almost anything. I would imagine maybe a rum drink would be nice. It is time to go to basil, but not the basil that you think. Holy basil. So this one's kind of not the traditional basil at all. It has more of a spicy, peppery scent and even flavor. Not only are the leaves great for cocktails, this is one of the few herbs that you can basically use everything. This is, to me, one of the cooler basil varieties you can grow especially if you're doing a cocktail garden, they will bush up quite a bit as well. So we have our herb garden in place. Every time you plant a new garden, whether it be a cocktail or otherwise, you need to water the plants in. I kind of call it the water weight water technique. Come right at the base of each of the plants, give them a really quick drink, let that water soak in, and then you come back a little bit later and water it in all the way. And it just helps the plant sort of establish itself. It helps the soil absorb the water, because sometimes, you know, you can pour a bunch of water on it, it'll kind of run everywhere. And you think you watered the plant, but you actually didn't at all. Now I can give this a deeper drink and the soil is more ready to accept all of this water. Besides watering in, herbs are so nice because they're just so friendly for a beginner. Good light, maybe 6 to 8 hours a day, adequate water once, twice a week. Just watch the plant and do that soil trick that I taught you about. When you're getting these in the ground, it's best to do it in your spring. So after the coldest temps of the year and spring starts to turn for you, that's ideal. Every single one of the herbs that I just showed you could be potted up in maybe a couple gallon container and placed on a balcony or just a little windowsill or railing planter. Okay, let's prune our herbs, which is also harvesting your herbs. You want to look for a part on the stem that is just above 2 leaves coming out to the side. That's exactly how you would harvest almost every single herb. So I mentioned mint gets out of control, and a way to reset it, I'll get a little extreme here, come in and just snip the whole thing like that, and voila, you have a ton of mint, and this is gonna bush back up no problem. On the lavender, I really only care about the tops, but if I want to, I can snip all the way down. I have my cocktail herbs. Let's walk around and pick a few things that might go well in a cocktail. Aside from cocktail herbs, one of the most versatile things to use in a nice drink is, of course, citrus. And this is my citrus hedge here at the homestead. I have about 15 different varieties. This is what's called a Bear's lime tree. A little cluster of citrus right here. These are obviously way too small to harvest, but this little guy right here is just right. So I'm gonna come in, give it a quick clip. I'm gonna collect a couple of these, then we'll move on to actually one of my favorite citrus. So here's one of my absolute favorite lemons. There's Eureka, there's Meyer, those are the classics. I prefer something a little bit more exotic. This is pink lemonade. So to cut off a little immature one just to show you. See that stripe pattern? You really don't see that on a lemon, and it imparts an interesting sort of flavor. So I'll take a harvestable one. It's interesting is you kind of lose a little bit of that striped pattern, but the flavor inside is still quite nice. And if you don't live in a place where you can just grow citrus in the ground, they're actually great container plants. Put it on a balcony and it should do quite well. Now, if you're in a really cold area, it's something you would want to take in for the winter. But I've seen friends that have beautiful citrus in a New York apartment. So many different flavors, herbs, fruits, so many different cocktails. So we have everything we need. Let's see what we can whip up. Well, the best part about growing a cocktail garden is making the cocktails, and I've got a few special concoctions for you. The first being a simple syrup made with the lavender that we harvested. It's just a cup of sugar and a cup of water, and then you get it up to heat, toss the lavender in, and let it steep for a bit, and you have this beautiful, beautiful simple syrup. Got my lemon that we harvested. We used it to make a very simple lavender lemonade. Look at that inside, absolutely gorgeous, perfectly ripe. And if you want, you could dress it up even further. I actually like this purple basil quite a bit. And the flowers are perfectly fine to use as a garnish. You got a little bit of this darker violet and then that nice lavender color, boom. So there's our mocktail, but there's a classic mint mojito that we still have to make. Now, I'm not a mixologist, so I won't be precise here, but if you're growing the herbs, they're gonna taste better. So let's go ahead and make it. Of course, we need mint to start it off. If you're a gardener, you can just kind of rip this off. So I'm gonna rip a bunch off because I want it to be really minty. I'll get a little pineapple sage, why not? Let's get a little pineapple flavor in here too. You can give it a little slap, kind of breaks some of the plant tissue and releases some of the aromatics. And then I'll just spoon in a little bit of this lavender simple syrup. So definitely going a little off script here, but that's totally fine. Just got myself in the face. And now I'm gonna go in with my rum. Then we'll just top it off with some sparkling water, get some ice in there, and we'll go in with a fresh sprig of both the pineapple sage and the mint. Just because I'm very proud of this lemon, I'm gonna go in with a slice of this. And there you have a very interestingly designed mint mojito from the garden. Let's give it a taste. It's good and it's not great. And I told you, I was a gardener, not a mixologist. I think I forgot one of the most classic ingredients, which would of course be a lime, beautiful lime from the garden. I'm just gonna go straight in with a little hand squeeze. Honestly, it's pretty damn good. That's pretty good. Nice flavor, nice balance. If you know you grew something yourself, it tastes better. Don't ask me why, but that's just sort of a psychological thing that happens in the garden. And if you have a friend who's into cocktails, great little gift, something I would love to receive, honestly, would be a shaker, some seeds. These are seeds that we offer, everything that we showed in the video. Put a little bow on it, let the bow go. Got a holiday gift, my friends. Check out some of Food52's much more professional cocktail recipes. I showed you how to grow a cocktail garden. They'll show you how to make the rest. And stay tuned on this series where I'll show you how to grow your own groceries.